Bart, infinitely, ludicrously small, came a whine which was more dog-like than anything Joan had ever heard before from the wolf. "Now," continued the implacable master, "you go over in that corner and lie down." Black Bart arose with a finally ugly look at Satan, and sneaked with hanging head and tail to the outer edge of the circle of light. "Farther, clear over there in the dark," came the order, and Bart had to uncoil himself again in the very act of lying down and retreat with another ominous growl clear into the darkness. Satan held his head high and watched triumphantly. But Joan felt that this was a little hard on Bart. She wanted to run over and comfort him, but she knew from of old that it was dangerous to interfere where Daddy Dan was disciplining either horse or wolf. Besides, she was not quite free from her new awe for Bart. "All right," said the master presently, and without raising his voice. It brought a dark thunderbolt rushing into the circle of light and stopping at Dan's side with such suddenness that his paws slid in the gravel. There he stood, actually wagging his bushy tail, an unprecedented outburst of joy for Bart, and staring hungrily into the face of Dan. She saw a wonderful softening in the eyes of her father as he looked at the great, dangerous beast. "You ain't a bad sort," he said, "but you need putting in place continual." Black Bart whined agreement. After that, when the dishes were being cleared away and cleaned with a speed fully as marvelous as the preparation of the supper, Joan remembered with a guilty start the message which she should have given to Daddy Dan, and she brought out the paper, much rumpled. He stood by the fire to read the letter. "Dan, come back to us. The house is empty, and there's no sign of you except your clothes and the skins you left drying in the vacant room. Joan sits all day mourning for you, and my heart is breaking. Oh, Dan, I don't grieve so much for what has been done, but I tremble for what you may do in the future." With the letter still in his hand, Dan walked thoughtfully to Satan and took the fine head between his fingers. "Suppose some gent was to drop you, Satan," he murmured. "Suppose he was to plug you while you was doing your best to take me where I want to go. Suppose he shot you not for anything you'd done, but because of something agin me. And suppose after killing you he was to sneak up on me with a lot of other gents and try to murder me before I had a chance to fight back. Satan, wouldn't I be right to trail 'em all and kill 'em one by one? Wouldn't it?" Joan heard very little of the words, only a soft murmur of anxiety, and she saw that Daddy Dan was very thoughtful indeed. The stallion reached for the brim of Dan's hat. It was withdrawn from his reach. His head bowed like a nod of assent. "Why, even Satan can see I'm right," murmured Dan, and moving back to the fire he tore the letter into many pieces which fluttered down in a white stream and made the blaze leap up. End of chapter 20.